seasons of pain. No time to even take names. Preoccupied with the hate. I pray, let us see gray is the American shade.
Hello, welcome to American Shades. Brittany King, your host and your girl, and today I'm going to be watching a conformity test, actually, that was conducted in 1950 by Solomon Asch. So according to simplypsychology.org, Solomon Asch conducted an experiment to investigate the extent to which social pressure from a majority group could affect a person to conform. So this video is just going to be a series of different tests, testing different men and seeing how they're pressured into saying the wrong answer, or do they speak up and say the right answer against the majority? I don't know. Let's watch.
But an experiment is not a public opinion poll. It examines behavior under the pressure of social forces, as the experiment of Solomon Asch reveals.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the three lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the fifth person with the white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
Two.
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 Two. Three.
Three. Three. Three.
But on the third trial, something happens.
Two. Two.
Two.
Two. Two.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
One.
Asch found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials. But he found through interviews that they went along with the group for different reasons.
One.
One.
They must be right. There are four of them and one of me. One.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
Okay, so I think that this speaks to a really interesting take and important part of what's happening right now in culture in 2022. And even though this was done in the 1950s, the fact that this is so relevant right now, like just with his, besides him saying the wrong answer, just with subject number 5, and he's the only one that's not an actor, everyone else is an actor. So he's giving his authentic opinion or answer. But the fact that he was just looking around the room and like observing everyone else and being like, am I off? Like, am I not seeing the reality right now? Am I not objectively seeing that what they're saying is obviously not the right answer? But the fact that not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 people before him was saying the wrong answer, you could tell he just said the answer because he's like, well, maybe I'm actually seeing a distorted sense of reality. Maybe I completely am off myself. And I think they had like an undertone of maybe his subconscious talking like, there's 4 of them and 1 of me, or there's 5 of them and 1 of me. And that speaks so true to what people feel right now in America, especially in the political landscape and just our cultural conversation of just people thinking that because a group says something, a majority says something, therefore that thing is true. And I think time and time again, we've seen that that is not the case. And for me, that's why I'm such a proponent for critical thinking. And it's not because I'm like critical thinking, free thinking, and be an individual, which yes, all of that. But it's more so if you can critically think and logically make sense of things on your own, and you just build up that muscle, and it becomes second nature for you to do A, B, and C, and D before you get to the answer or the solution. And you vetted all possibilities. You vetted it through facts and not just your emotions. And sometimes you do need your emotions and things, but when you just base it through factual evidence, And you're able then to be confident no matter how many people say or agree with you, that you're like, I'm going to say this because I believe this is true. And I'm not going to be intimidated by a group of people saying an answer that I really don't think is true. So I'm not, and I don't even know, perhaps, this is something that's not like his character. Perhaps he otherwise might be more vocal. But I think this, even though this is just a line test, this speaks to how people feel about ideas that they agree with, that they think is off, believing in religious, beliefs and ideologies and thoughts and et cetera, people, proponents, whoever on the political side to just the normal celebrity and what they think, and just believing what they think because you like the celebrity, or because everyone likes a celebrity, therefore they're right. I think this speaks to that, like, clear and direct. And it's not a shock to see this, but it is a shock that, well, no, it's not a shock. It's not a shock to see this because of where we are now in culture, but it is kind of cray that just with a line test, people are afraid to challenge the majority or a group, and will participate in groupthink when they know something is wrong. And I wonder what would have happened if he just would have been like, okay, maybe not even say the answer, but just challenge the group on, can you explain to me why you think 2 is correct? Because I actually see that 3 is correct. And I just want to know, like, where you got to that, that answer. I don't know if that was even a possibility for this person, but that would have been an interesting element to this. So yeah, let's continue.
1,
1,
2,
1,
2, 2.
So I believe right now there's another experiment going on, and the man again in the 5th seat is not an actor. Everyone else is an actor. So I think we missed that.
2,
I know they're wrong, but why should I make waves?
2,
In this case, the subject knows he is right, but goes along to avoid the discomfort of disagreeing
Two.
with the group. Here, the distortion is at the level of his response.
2,
2,
2,
2,
Okay, so again, interesting. So this guy, he knows he's right, but like they play the undertone of his subconscious talking, like, why should I make waves? Why should I challenge the group, etc. And this is like the other side of groupthink, when the first guy believed something was true, but because the majority was saying it, he thought, okay, perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps my reality is distorted. Perhaps I need to go back to the drawing board and go along with the majority, because clearly if all of them are seeing something, then I'm off. This guy in this second experiment, he is saying, or his subconscious was saying to us, I know I'm right, but why should I make waves? Why should I, ostracize myself from the group? Like, I'm just going to get along and go along. And is that the saying? I'm going to go along to get along. That's the saying. But, and that is also so true. And that speaks to a lot of us in America, of how we know that we are right, or we know that something's wrong. We know maybe a narrative or an idea in our political group or whatever aisle we're on, whatever side we're on. We know what they're saying is not good, or we know what they're saying is off or dangerous or harmful. But instead of challenging the group or the helm of the group, people rather just be quiet, be a part of the majority, so they're not shunned, so they're not exiled. And that speaks to a lot to just people not wanting to be alone, people like not having this sense of isolation from otherwise a group that they participated in and felt community in. And I feel like a lot of people sacrifice, sadly, their ethics and morals. Not to say like this, in this case, this experiment was just like, what's the lines here, here, here. And maybe if it was something more dire, perhaps this man would have spoke up on something, that's more of an issue that would actually affect people. But it does actually speak to, well, if you don't speak up about a line being wrong in this experiment, would you actually speak up about things that are actually could be fatal to someone, could be harmful to you or someone else? Like, would you have that much guts to say something? There's a question there. But yeah, a lot of people, and I've talked to people too, and these conversations usually are private ones. But I personally know people that I truly like, that I love, who say that, will either come into my Twitter messages and tell me they agree with me, or they agree with something someone said that I might have retweeted, but they don't feel comfortable saying it out loud, or they feel like if they say it out loud, like their followers might come and attack them. And it's like, it's sad, because it's like, I know why you are, expressing this to me, because you want me to know, like, hey, I got your back and whatever. But the fact that you are not only staying neutral, but you're kind of preaching the antithesis of what you actually agree in this DM to me is such a problem. And if it's happening with me, way more than 20 times, then how many times is this happening with like people that really have a large impact on society with their thoughts and their views? And it's not hopeful, at least not to me. And I know maybe someone can be more optimistic and see a silver lining and being like, well, at least people like aren't as delusional as you think, because this person, sees the flaws in perhaps their philosophies or their ideas. But the fact that this person isn't saying anything is the problem. It's like, you can say all you want, but if people don't know how you really feel, and not only that, but you're saying the opposite of what you really feel, that, how is that good? Like, I don't see the silver lining in that, and that's just perfectly fine with me, but that's just me. But again, this experiment is just kind of demonstrating something on a macro scale and a larger scale of how afraid people are to be the minority in a majority. Just simply that. And this can even boil down to even just kids in schools and how they feel peer pressure just to go along with their clique or go along with the group, or maybe even in a situation where they're seeing someone being bullied and they know it's wrong, but instead of saying it's wrong, they just bully the person too, or they stay silent because perhaps they don't want that wrath being turned on them, or just perhaps they just don't want to seem uncool. And when you go into like more in the adult world, the same is true. Like, people just don't want to seem like the person, like the odd man out, even the uncool one, the person that doesn't get it, because maybe perhaps if they're that person, then they're a bad person, then they are an insensitive person. But we have to allow these gaps of nuance and letting people to raise a question or challenge, or say an answer that we might think is wrong, or say an answer that might be challenging, because we should. Like, it shouldn't just be, well, 100 people said yes, so it's yes. No, maybe it's not yes, or maybe it's a mixture of both. So yeah, this is a very interesting test. Let's continue on.
In the previous experiment, the naive subject stood alone against the group. In this variation, Asch gave the naive subject a partner, here seated in the third position, who also gives the correct response.
1.
1.
2.
1. 2.
With a partner, yielding drops to only 5% of the critical trials compared to 37% without a partner. Although subjects report warmth and good feeling toward the partner, they typically deny that he played a role in their own independence. The partnership variation shows that much of the power of the group came not merely from its numbers, but from the unanimity of its opposition. When that unanimity is punctured, the group's power is greatly reduced.
Wow. This is awesome. Okay, so what's going on here is everyone, again, is an actor, but what Asch did here is the third person who's an actor, he told him to say the real right answer. So everyone's saying the wrong answer, and the third person is saying the right answer. And then the fifth man is the subject, and he wanted to see, is he going to go with the majority and say the wrong answer, or is the fact that he has a partner in crime, so to speak, in this, is he going to say the right answer? Even if it's just two people saying the right answer, is he going to do it? And as you saw, he did. And also, as you saw, not only did he say the right answer, but he looked at the guy in the third row like, you know, as if I got your back, or like we're in this together, or we're the only sane people in the room, you know, something like that. And I thought that that was really interesting. And that's actually stuff that happens definitely in society. Like, it's very normal for someone to just be like, I got your back, and all that stuff. But what is really interesting with this is the fact that I think he said that with subject number 5, or just people that he did this test with, that it wasn't necessarily the third person saying the right answer that gave them the courage to say the right answer, like as if they would say the right answer anyway, and that they didn't feel dependent on that person. I don't actually believe that, because the fact that he expressed that, just that gesture of, yo, we said the right answer, like, like, we got this, that shows like some type of normal dependency that you had on that person. And I don't think that's bad. I don't think it's bad if that person, subject 5, admitted that, you know, it was easier to say the right answer when someone was in it with me. And I think that's exactly why I feel like when people find themselves in echo chambers, that not to flee automatically, and not to leave automatically, and not to be like, well, I know the answer now and all you guys are crazy, so I'm going to go off and I'm just going to be cool, whatever. I think that you should actually stick around and start asking the people in the echo chamber questions of, why do we think this? Why do we believe this? Why is this the idea, the narrative that we're all attached to? And perhaps if you do that, you might wake up or help someone else that's also lost in the halls, the same halls you were just in. I hope that when people do find themselves in those situations, that they don't get haughty on people, and they're not like, oh, well, I know the answer, so peace, and you guys can stick here by yourself. Like, no, like just that right there shows that there is, I mean, it's such a cliche, but there are strength in numbers, literally. Like, if one person speaks out, it is easier for other people to speak out. If, I'm sure in those other tests that we saw with the first and second test, if one person said the right answer before them, I'm sure they would have said the right answer, because they would have been like, okay, I'm not the only one. And that's human. And honestly, that's fine. Like, that's human to not want to be alone, and not wanting to be the one that's going to get all the heat from everyone. But if someone says the right answer, I don't even know if that's, you can even consider that being a coward. I really don't. I think, I mean, you could argue that if someone said the right answer and you still went along with the group, that could be defined as a coward, maybe. But I do think it's something to be said about how important it is for people just to speak up, because more times than not, there's someone that's begging for someone to speak up. Perhaps they don't have that willpower in them. Perhaps that's not part of their personality. And if you say something, then they might be the first one to jump up and back you up and be like, yo, I got you. Just like with the guy, you know, with the red shirt and the awesome afro. Like, perhaps that person's waiting to back you up. And perhaps that person just won't say anything until someone says it. I mean, that's sometimes how life goes. So I think it is important for people who can speak up to do it. And when you do it, stay there and challenge the people there. Not to challenge them to be like, see, I'm right and you guys are wrong, but to challenge them to be like, yo, I was just here with you and I'm realizing how off I am. I think you guys are off and I don't want you to be off. So I'm just going to throw some things at you and let's just have a discussion and dialogue. And perhaps with that, they'll get themselves out of it. So this is like so interesting that this is so relevant right now. I wonder if a test like this was done now, Would it be any different? I'm gonna guess no, it wouldn't be any different. That's for me. I don't think this test honestly would be any different. I think it would be worse. I think if someone said the right answer, that someone else, like maybe that man in the red, if he was 2022, I don't even know if he'd say the right answer. I don't know. But anyway, let's finish this.
Sometimes we go along with a group because what they say convinces us they are right. This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. This is called normative conformity. The strength of the normative factor is shown in another variation carried out by Asch. In this variation, the subject is told that because he had arrived late.
And I like when he said, and I forgot the exact words, but like when, you know, maybe the narrative of the group is punctured, the numbers is punctured by people like outliers, like the power of the group actually lessens. And that's so true. Like when more people speak up, it might have a ripple effect of a lot of people then saying, oh yeah, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And then all of a sudden the power of the group kind of dismantles itself. Or just the fact that maybe 5 people say this is wrong out of 100, I think the power of the group then starts to wear down, maybe not immediately, but might start, because that might be insidious and challenging people on their own time internally, like, okay, these 5 people left. Is there something off with this? Am I wrong? People might start questioning themselves. But if there's a complete 100% unity on like, this is right, this is the narrative, then it's so strong. The power of the group is so strong. The power of groupthink is so strong. But if there's 5 people or 6 people raising their hands and saying, some ain't right, some in the milk ain't clean, people might look at their milk and be like, perhaps this milk isn't clean. Perhaps there's something in this. But yeah.
In this variation, the subject is told that because he had arrived late, he would have to write his answers. Subjects in this private response experiment are exposed to the same amount of misleading information as other subjects, but they are immune from any possible criticism by the group.
One.
And this enormously reduces the pressure to conform. Conformity drops by 2/3. Asch's experiment is a classic. It reveals how people will deny what they see and submit to group pressure. It allows us not only to observe conformity, but to study the conditions that increase or reduce its occurrence.
Very interesting, again, with the man having to write down the answer that he thinks is right versus saying it out loud. And I think that speaks back to what I was talking about with people silently agreeing with you through a message that no one else will see besides you, versus them saying it out loud, like on their Twitter feed, or them saying it out loud to their friends or the political group or community that they're in. People, there's more strength people have and courage people have, obviously, to say something in confidence with someone or privately, or even journal down, like, I really think this is right, or I really think like there's something off here, versus saying something out loud. And it's very interesting, especially in our digital era in social media, where it's like, it seems like people do want to be a center of attention. Like on Instagram, people are like posing and like, and people are sharing like their lives, and people are going on trips and sharing everything about themselves, and they want to be seen. Like they want to be vocal and want people to like them, literally, and you know, on Instagram, they want people to like, and they want people to like their Twitter, you know, post, or their Facebook post, or what have you. But then when it comes to like stuff like this, people don't want to be seen. People don't want the attention. People are uncomfortable with eyes on them. And it's just the contrast of that is really jarring. And perhaps that's another video. But I think this test is something that, one, I'm going to watch again a couple more times just to see like little things I might have not saw the first time around. But I think it really is such a smart test, and It seems so subtle, but it says so much about not just us as Americans, but just humans, of how we operate and how much we want to be fully and have this agency just to be fully human, but we just feel suppressed in a lot of ways to do that because we feel that perhaps it's more important to be liked. Perhaps it's more important to have a community, to have friends, than to say the thing we should be saying. And that's sad, man. It really is freaking sad. But it's like, we all do it. Like, we all do it. Like, and I think that's important to also realize, you're not an outlier to groupthink or conformity or peer pressure. Like, people really believe, like, because I've gotten a grip on logic, therefore I cannot ever fall into groupthink. No, that's not true. That's not true. Maybe on ideas you don't, but maybe on other things you do. Maybe in your friend group, you do the stupid things with your friends because you want to be cool like them. I mean, we all have to be, bring ourselves down to earth and realize, like, no side, no political aisle, no types of people hold the monopoly on groupthink or peer pressure or conformity. I'm sure all those men were different political ideologies or, believed certain different things, yet we saw consistently how just human beings maybe just react. And I think we got to give everyone grace, and we got to just realize, like, everyone's human and everyone's imperfect and flawed. So I mean, I'm still optimistic, obviously, because I understand, just if you're able to think for yourself critically, you are able to not be so susceptible to being seduced into these many types of cults, you could say, that tell you what to believe, because you might not be confident enough to explain what you believe or to really state how you believe. And therefore you just allow these ready-made ideas to instill principles in you of what you are going to believe without even understanding why. But I digress. I might do another video on a topic of this sort. We'll see. But thank you for watching this one. And also, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking after watching this video, and how maybe you've fallen into groupthink and conformity and peer pressure, and maybe just have a discussion with people in this comment section. But yeah, happy new year, and it's 2022, more on the way. As always, peace, love, let's shade.
I don't buy it, I'm just trying to make my way, Lord. And I know all of my sins gotta be paid for, but Babylon's red and blue, still the same war. So what we do, is there a bigger picture? Everything great. Shout out to King Talissa, we getting played in the game, and I'm right there with you. Hoping the clout and the light's gonna make us richer, but I ain't tripping, been having visions. A mind's freed from all political prisons. The only mission is to redirect attention, aggravate my tension, and I don't give a